Raggett is off the mark. Far from our best display this season so far, but it's a return to winning ways for Pompey. Elsewhere across League One, Lincoln picked up another good result against one of the big boys. Bolton came from 2 behind away at Accrington to win 3-2. Plymouth were held to a point at the Memorial Stadium, having been 2 up at half-time. Exeter came from behind to beat Fleetwood in the last minute. Morecambe recorded a great win for them against Barnsley, and Pompey's next opponents, Oxford United, lost again. All of that means Pompey retain the 5th spot with 2 games in hand. Plymouth's lead at the top narrows to just 2 points. Tonight we've got a packed show for you ahead of a busy week at Fratton Park, here on 4-0 Sunday Live. A very good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. It's just gone 7 o'clock, and that can only mean one thing by now. It's time for your favourite hour of the week. Alongside these gentlemen, a very good evening to Gaz. Pepe Lacey joins us from the Portsmouth News. And Jack, who quite helpfully, I suppose, is an Oxford fan, and he's going to be able to come along and chat all through all things Oxford. We're also hoping to be joined by Retro Shirt Sean a little bit later on as well. What else that we're joined by is you. So welcome along. Hope you're all doing very well. Mike has said, first Sunday show for me. Never been to one before because I always miss them all. Mike, welcome along. Nice to have you with us. Hello to Scott on Wonders World as well. Jack's here. Jake has said, just showing my face. Happy you got the win. Have a cracking show. Thanks very much indeed. And hello to Dylan as well. He was dealing with an injury at work, but he's here and he's made it. So that's all good. Gaz, welcome. How you doing, mate? Hope your Sunday's going really well. A lot of shrubbery around you, which is always lovely to see. What did you make of yesterday?
Yesterday, I mean, I paid the money, watched the iFollow, and I say we got the result 1-0. Wasn't a great performance, wasn't a great birthday present. I mean, 3 points is a nice birthday present for Danny, but he'll be concerned about that performance. But out of that performance, there were some positive things, wasn't there? Because we had Mingy, was really good in midfield. It was good that Swanson got some. He got his debut in the EFL, and Curtis giving Karoma some competition on that side as well. And it's nice seeing Connor in the left side now. Obviously, we missed Pack a little bit yesterday, but yeah, all in all, some positives, but a lot of work to do. That's for sure.
Pepe, just quickly, I've noticed a certain queries here to say hello this evening, so that's nice. What did you make of yesterday? I know you weren't there, but I know you would have. We're going to chat about Charlton before we talk about Forest Green, but just briefly, reflections on yesterday.
No, I think it was. Obviously, I wasn't there, but it was a good win. I wouldn't go as far as saying it was a must-win, but it was a game Pompey should have won. It was a game probably that came around at the right time. Pompey winless in 4 before yesterday and needed a win, and they went to Forest Green. Obviously, there's been teams that have gone there and turned them over, but Pompey in the form they were in, they would have taken a win. And I think when you look at the situation they're in with the injuries at the moment as well, you take a 1-0 win, and hopefully they've got Oxford now on Tuesday, so that'll be the ideal way to kickstart their momentum again.
And Oxford on Tuesday led us nicely on to our third and final guest for the moment. As I said, Sean's going to join us a little bit later on, hopefully. But Jack, welcome, mate. Just one quick fire question for you. Has he got to go?
Yes.
There we go. And that's all we need for the moment, because we're going to cast our minds back to Charlton. We'll get on to Oxford a little bit later on in the hour. Good evening to someone called The Real D1, who said first time here as a PAFC fan quality YouTuber. That's very kind of you, mate. And Marcus said a win away is what we needed. Hopefully we will win on Tuesday night. Player Pompey. And there's a Charlton fan who joins us as well, and we're going to chat about that in a moment. I think he was here last Monday. Gaz wasn't here. I think I recognise the name. It was last Sunday night, wasn't it? Ahead of the Monday game. So that's interesting. Nice to see you sticking around. We'll go straight back to that Charlton game then, Gaz, and we won't spend too much time dwelling on it, but I think it's worth a little bit of a dissect, if you will. What did you make of it? Obviously, you travelled a long way for it. And, I mean, a lot of Pompey fans made a lot of noise. Sold out away end, 2,374, I think was the figure in the end. And Jack was there. Pepe, you were there, weren't you? You were at the Valley?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I wasn't in the game, but I was there.
There we go. So full crew tonight. We can chat all about Charlton for a minute. Gaz, your major takeaways, night to forget.
Yeah, it was really, especially before the game. I mean, like I said to Jack, I didn't see a 3-0 loss on the cards, if I'm honest. I thought we were playing all right in previous games. Obviously, Fleetwood, we got a disappointing draw, but I thought confidence was going into that game would be okay. But yeah, when we were watching the game itself, we could just see so many errors, even the formation and the players that were in that formation at the time. We could see we were going to get torn apart, and schoolboy errors. They did what we've done to teams in the past. They high pressed us. They didn't let us play the ball, and we were playing suicide football at sometimes. And it was just embarrassing at times. We had Dale. It almost looked like he was a centre midfield. They were playing the wide game, and we were playing the narrow. We were doing the narrow in the middle. We had no width at all whatsoever, and we got caught out suckerly by 3 goals, and just deserved. If I'm honest, I thought Charlton were good on the night. You can't say we deserved anything out of that game, and we didn't. We hoped that we could go on to Forest Green at the weekend, but obviously we can talk about that game as well. But yeah, all in all, bad night all around on Monday.
Pepe sat in the press box. Did it look any different from your point of view, or was Gaz hit the nail on the head?
No, I think he's hit the nail on the head perfectly. I think we all know the first 16 minutes was probably played really well, but that all of a sudden they got their goal and then were on top, and Pompey couldn't really come back from that really. And then when they got their first goal, they were sort of in the ascendancy, and you didn't see Pompey really get back into it. And bless Michael Morrison, he couldn't do anything right in that first half. Obviously, the first goal, he should have been stronger. He should have got to that ball first. And then Karoma, he couldn't do anything right either. The second goal came from his crossfield pass, which was just ridiculous, and Pompey just couldn't do anything right.
Assist as well.
Yeah.
Karoma.
And it was and then obviously Pack gets sent off. They score the third, and Pompey they cannot come back from that. And Charlton did well and were professional and saw the game out. So yeah, it was Pompey's probably worst performance of the season, and I'm going to go with Gaz. I didn't see that one coming either.
No, and I don't think it would be arrogant of Pompey fans to say that you didn't see it coming either. It's just one of those things, isn't it? Matt said there were too many players who had a bad game. The subs are the only ones who looked like they wanted to get back into it. But I think maybe when the subs came on, it felt like the game was gone. Joanne said Blackett-Taylor is some player. Inconsistency he highlights there. Jack, from your point of view as a neutral, obviously your first experience in a Pompey away end. I know we've spoken since the game, and I know that you enjoyed it. But obviously not from a kind of footballing point of view, but I know it was a good night out at the Valley for you. What did you make of it? If you take a step back and remove yourself from the Pompey conversation, what are your reflections?
I was shocked by Pompey's performance. You came into the game also really needing to get back to winning ways and really trying to get back on track. You weren't in brilliant form going into that one, and that only really made it worse. The fans were incredible. The fans were magnificent. I was really, really impressed by the turnout on a Monday night. I've had a lot of discussion with people on the episode that I did, about travelling down on a Monday night from Pompey to London, and it being on Sky Sport. But the football side of things, I think everyone's been very, very fair with their reflection. Tactically, I think actually Ben Garner did Danny Cowley, the way that he really wanted to just use the wide areas exceptionally well through Charlie Kirk. And through the other wide players they had, they sort of chopped and changed throughout the game. But Charlie Kirk was on one side, Raksaki was the other. These are players that absolutely exposed the fullbacks. And, we spoke about it, Tom, the other day. These are fullbacks as well that are actually being sort of shifted around in different places. You've got Ogilvy's not naturally playing in the position that you'd want to be. So there are injuries that are causing Pompey to be in this bad run of form. But that performance, injuries or not, it wasn't great. And I look at Portsmouth at the start of the season. I know, as fans as well, you're probably also thinking like this. You can't really compare it to the sort of opening few games of the campaign whatsoever.
Yeah, it's a bit. It was definitely Monday night was a low point and a world away from what we've been used to performance wise. Gaz, how much learning do you think we then took forward into Forest Green, given the poor? Obviously, there was a change in formation which would have changed the game. And were you at all concerned by what you saw, and you're thinking, oh, actually, maybe this Pompey side aren't quite as good as they've shown to be when in the start of the season?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the luck was out when it during the Charlton game, because obviously with Pack getting sent off. Jacobs comes on, you think he's going to make an impact like he did when he come on sub. But then he goes off 10 minutes later and has a hamstring problem. So, yeah, the injuries are creeping in slightly more than what we thought would happen. And obviously, all of a sudden, you start looking at the bench. And I thought, well, who are you going to play? But then obviously he went, I think it was 5 changes yesterday, wasn't he? Was it 5 changes yesterday? So the bench looked a bit stronger than what obviously it has done in the past. But yeah, some lessons weren't learned I mean, formation-wise, we had players at least playing in the right position, which was one good thing. But again, that first 11, that Danny, he's been crying out for that first 11 now for what? Maybe 5 or 6 games now. But because of the injuries, he's been having to force to reshuffle the pack, like Jack said. We know what our first 11 should be, but unfortunately, injuries and now suspensions, we haven't got it. So we know that within the squad, we've got a good, possibly a promotion-winning team, but it's getting all the right jigsaw pieces in the right place, at the same time. So yeah, we've got to be a bit patient. 2 losses and a draw. Would you take that at the beginning of the season at this time of the season? I would. So it's not all doom and gloom. And like I say, there's more positives to come. Like I say, with Swanson coming on for his debut and competition in places. So yeah, I'm very positive still.
We're going to come back to the midfield conversation in a bit because I think I think we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago with who's your 4 or your centre back pairing, and we had the Morrison, Raggett, and Robertson debate, and I think we'll probably have a similar one to those. I might even get a poll up and running if the clamour is for it to see who people would go for their midfield selection, given that Mingy's thrown all sorts of he's thrown his hat in the ring and he's really made people think about it, hasn't he? Just a last little bit about Charlton before we very quickly move on, Pepe, because you don't want to talk about it for very long at all. Your thoughts on the Marlon Pack sending off. You were probably closer to it than a lot of Pompey fans were. Obviously, no one's closer than watching it zoomed in on Sky Sports in super slow-mo, but you were probably closer in real time. What was the kind of reaction around where you were? Because I can imagine, although there weren't very many there, you were around some Charlton fans that bit of a strange reaction, maybe not too many people shouting off. What was the situation?
Well, it was right in front of us. Like it couldn't have been any closer to us. So we had the perfect view, and he's gone in. And I said to Neil, the ref instantly was waving his hands like he was going no. And then all the Charlton players got around him, and then that started to swing his decision. He's like, and then because I said to Neil Allen, he's not sending him off. He said no, and then 8 seconds later, he brought out the red card to all of our surprise. And it was like, was it a red card or a second yellow? Yes, but I think it was the Charlton players that swung his decision. I don't think he initially would have given it, but I think it was the players crowding around him ultimately made that decision. But on reflection, it probably was a second yellow, and yeah, it was. He would have been lucky if he didn't get away with it.
And it's one of those, isn't it, Jack, that when something like that comes to you and is thrown your way, 2-0 down, you're then down to 10 men. And then I said to you that the character that we didn't show and the kind of the sharpness and the, I don't know, maybe the attention that we didn't give to the game enough to then go and very quickly concede the third. I turned to Alex, who stood next to us, it's game over now. Like, there's no way you're coming back 3-0 down with, I don't know how long, maybe 20 minutes to go at that point. I don't know when they're sending off. It was about 20 minutes to go, wasn't it? Maybe half hour, something like that. At that point, it is curtains and game over, even from the most resilient side. Even, you'd struggle to find a side in League One. There you go, Pepe. Chloe's agreeing with you, so there you go. A little bit of agreement there. I want to do that all night, mate. You're going to love it.
Please don't.
Yeah. The 3-0 down, Jack, curtains, and no matter what, Pompey could have thrown all the kitchen sinks in the world. There wasn't any coming back into that.
No, there wasn't. And the problem you have, and Portsmouth had in the game, was there was no real sort of encouragement before that moment. It wasn't like you're creating chance after chance. You missed a lot of sitters. They scored 2 lucky goals, and you sort of felt there was that real encouragement for you to keep going forward. Unfortunately, you weren't playing well up until that point, and that just made it even harder. So it was just, trying to climb a hill that was getting steeper and steeper and steeper. And someone just ultimately, to keep the energy going, pushed you off it, because there's no way you're going to just get any higher up there and you're going to improve based on the encouragement or lack of encouragement you've shown, up until that point in the game. So yeah, it wasn't a good night. I can tell you probably do want to move on quite quickly. And I can see why, because the performance wasn't good enough. Nothing like what we've seen. And yeah, it was a strange one, and I said to you, like you said to the people that are around you as well. At that point, it is game over. And Charlton played very well. I think that's important to say. Charlton certainly did put on a good show in front of maybe not a sold out Valley or a sold out home end, but they certainly did, show the high level performance that I think a lot of sides will be watching out for until as the season does progress.
Cool. Let's turn our attention to Forest Green yesterday, and try that again. Turn our attention to Forest Green yesterday. We'll have a look at how the game played out in numbers, and then some look at some of the player ratings, which we'll come back to in a moment as well. So as you can see there, pretty much every department is dominated by Pompey, other than the possession, and we've left off obviously the one goal to Pompey at the top. Shots, big chances, even offsides and corners. We won on corners as well, and there's a little look at your player ratings too. An average of a 7.1 yesterday, according to what we've gone for here. And I was having a chat with Gaz before the show started, and we weren't too concerned about that either. And we'll come back to that in just a moment. So after a sort of a few questionable weeks and results, Pepe, and a little bit of a clamour on social media, certain, people coming out of their hidey holes to say that the manager needs to go, all that kind of thing. Is it a case of you take any kind of win at Forest Green?
Yeah, like I alluded to earlier, you take any win at the moment. If you're in a run of 4 games without a win at any cost, whether it's the prettiest game in the world or whether it's the best you ever play, you take a win. And from what I gather off social media, it wasn't the prettiest game in the world, and Pompey weren't at their best, but they grinded out the victory. And I watched the highlights this morning, and they did have their chances, and they just couldn't put them away, unfortunately. And then you look, 3 or 4-0, then you're thinking, they've turned a corner. But I still don't think Pompey have turned a corner. I think Oxford will be a tough game. I know they're in a slump as well, but you look at the injuries at the moment, they're just racking up. Joe Morrell obviously couldn't come on because he's back. Marlon Pack, I wrote a story earlier. Cowley said he's hopeful. There's nothing significant, but we all know what hopeful means in Daddy Cowley's words is you look at Tom Larry and Joe Rafferty, they were hopeful about 4 weeks ago, and they've still not been seen. So the injuries is they are a big problem. And I think when your squad's like it is at the moment, where your best players are out, you take any sort of win. So I think that win was vital yesterday, and hopefully they can kick on for Tuesday.
I think it's worth kind of describing the away day to you as well for some people that might not have made the trip. It was incredible. It was we were sort of driving down these lanes, and obviously you're coming up from the south coast, and it's just in the middle of nowhere. It's like the best way to describe it, an episode of Escape to the Country. You know, when they go out and find these houses that are just absolutely nowhere, and these one old bloke and an old lady who just go, this is really nice, but the rooms are too small. It was that kind of away day. And we were just going round corners and whatever. And then all of a sudden you just see a Luckett's fan coach just pop out of nowhere. Go, we must be in the right place then. So we're on our way into this little village. And then obviously there's the roadworks issue as well. I think you might have seen a little bit about that. So the 1,200 Pompey fans trying to descend on this one place where they've got one of those 4-way control things to a roundabout where they let some people through and then it stops and let the other people through. And you would have thought they'd just get rid of it or make the lights be permanently on the one way that only people were going to the ground. And then after the game, it would have been easier to go out the ground. But obviously that would be the sensible thing, wouldn't it? So yeah, very strange. I have to say, and I've seen a couple of people say it, for me, it is the worst I've ever been to, I think, as an away ground. I've been to Gillingham, I've been to Newport away, open cover stands, no issue with those two, but it was really, really bad.
Well, I've seen someone say on social media that Forest Green's ground made Gillingham look like the San Zero. So
yeah, that's exactly right, yeah. That's exactly it. It was pretty horrendous. And there was also, the other thing was there was one tiny little gate to get out, which is about the width of my screen. And it was just every 1,200 people just funneling through. And then it took forever to get out. So that's the away day described to you, driving through little lanes and ending up in a very surreal situation.
Well, I saw Jordan Cross put a photo of a bull at one point, or some horned cow.
Potentially somewhere around there,
in the middle of the road. So just that's what you expect from Forest Green. It's in the middle of nowhere, and you're just there in the rain. So
it's a nice journey down a Cotswolds lane, and then all of a sudden a ground just pops out of nowhere, out of the wilderness.
I'm very jealous I wasn't there.
Well, to be honest. Well, if we hadn't won the game, I would have gone, no, there was no point in going there. But luckily, we got out of there. And smash and grab is the way we would describe it. Gaz, I'm sure what we just mentioned was reflected through the screen. We obviously need to talk about Jay Mingy and what a star he was yesterday. The ball carrying threat of that man is such a joy to watch, and just is going to hopefully work wonders. And you've already mentioned it, but one for the future for Pompey, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, these chances don't come around too often, do they? Only by injuries or suspensions. And it looks like he's going to take, hopefully the bull by the horns, as they say, and see what he can offer more in the team. Because when he came on at Charlton, within 20 minutes, he got man of the match. I know we were all disappointingly bad, but to get man of the match as a sub coming on at 20 minutes, that shows you, how good he was, and justified. He got his start against Forest Green, which was again a good one to come back from a loss, and he did play well in midfield. So it's going to be interesting, because obviously with the Pack, Morale, the Lowry, obviously the other wingers as well. It's going to be interesting. What more does he have to do? Because at the moment he played well, So if he keeps playing well, he's going to give Danny a headache. And that's what Danny needs. He needs headaches. You don't want just a person going to get picked just for the sake of it. So yeah, fair play to him, and I wish him all the good luck.
Yeah, Jack, you can see it from your point of view, and you'll review loads of games where people go to Forest Green and don't get the points, or do get the points, or hammer them, or it's a 0-0 or 1-0 to the home side. I think a couple of our fans are, and only a couple, a small minority, are maybe underestimating the importance and significance of a win at a place like Forest Green. For those who might not be aware, from a League One point of view, it is quite an important win, and it's a football cliche, but it's a tough place to go, isn't it?
It is, and I think when you're in a rut like you are at the moment, 3 points is 3 points, and I think you've got to get yourself out of that rut as quickly as you can. If you draw that game, you lose that game, then I imagine the backlash will be very, very dramatic, because that winless run and that really poor run that you're on, or that, because there will be question marks. That performance, from what I'm hearing, I didn't watch the game, I did watch the highlights, and I do speak about it in the review that's coming out tonight. You did play very well. Ultimately, you did, or if you did, you definitely did play to the level that you did at the start of the season. And we'll keep coming back to that, because that's the only way you can compare it. But I think it's important that you win that game, just because it's 3 points in League One. You're still in that top six, and you are right. Bolton have been at Forest Green this season, lost 1-0. Sides have been to Forest Green this season, and they've come away with nothing. So I think, I'm not going to use the word grateful, but I think you take that. I think you take that. You take the negatives with that, but I think you also take the fact that it is 3 points on the road, and the rut. You could hope now you just take the level of result and use that as confidence to go into the next one, and then you take it back to Fratton Park on Tuesday, and in your eyes, hopefully you beat us. So it's going to be interesting, but that positive that will come with the 3 points, and the fact that run doesn't continue and doesn't get worse, I think that should be the big positive.
Yeah. Welcome to the 80 people who join us across YouTube and Facebook this evening. A very warm welcome to you. We've got plenty to come for you this evening, talking about 4 games from Pompey's last couple of weeks, and then the next couple of weeks is the next week or so. So we've already mentioned our trip to Charlton on Monday night. We're currently in the midst of reviewing Forest Green, and Pepe's going to give us some wise words in a moment when I throw him a tough question. And then we've got 2 home games to chat about later on in the show. One of them is going to be very ably discussed from the opposition view from Jack in a moment or two. And then we'll also speak about Shrewsbury later on. So stick around, and thank you for joining us to this point. I want to ask you about Owen Dale, Pepe, and how there might be an argument to say that he's overplaying a little bit, and perhaps he's not getting that ball in to Colby at quite the right time, or maybe when Colby's not expecting it. We all know the talent that boy has, but I think he's trying so hard at the minute, isn't he? And for whatever reason, we're a little bit goal light at the minute. And can you pin that on Dale, or it's a whole team thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you can't pinpoint Pompey not scoring on one player in particular. I think you look at the amount of talent they've got in the front line. I spoke to Sean Raggett a couple of weeks ago, and he was full of praise of just how far Pompey's attack has come compared to this time last year. You look at last year, John Marquis, Ellis Harrison, and George Hurst, who at the time wasn't scoring goals. They've come such a long way, and at the start of the season, they were free flowing and they were scoring goals, and it was like, oh, hang on, Pompey have got some threat about them. And then for some reason or another, the goals just haven't come around. And I don't think you can pinpoint that on Dale. I think you look at Josh Koroma as well. Maybe he could put a few more balls into the box. But Colby Bishop's the player that you rely on, who relies on crosses. And at the moment, those crosses aren't coming in. And he's also finding it difficult. And it's a tough one, because what do you change? Do you take Colby Bishop out of the team? Do you take Owen Dale out of the team? You then put Curtis on the right, who's then playing out of position. Do you trust Hackett? There's so many questions with who you could go with, but I don't think you can pinpoint it on Dale in particular, because a few games ago, or the last time I was on, we were talking about how good he was, at Burton, and we were saying, "Oh, we're finally seeing the best of Owen Dale," then for some reason or another, it's not quite working out. But I think that's just where Pompey are at the moment as a whole. I don't think everybody's firing, and I think Dale's just been chosen as one of those players that isn't performing to his maximum.
I should say those weren't the thoughts of me. That was a reflection of the fan base and not a 4-0 written all over it view. So Owen Dale, if you're watching, that was me and Pepe both love you, but some of our fans have been questioning a few things. Gaz, credit to ourselves for the game management, I thought, especially towards the end.
Yeah, towards the end. I mean, just once you get that goal, you got something to defend, haven't you? But it just didn't look like it was going to be our day. It was definitely better than Charlton, but it just didn't look like it was going to be our day. So, yeah, we take the 3 points and then we move on to Oxford for Tuesday. At least I don't think we got any injuries against Forest Green, which is obviously one good thing. And then, obviously, the Pack suspension. Does that end now, does it, for Tuesday? So, again, it's going to be another... It'll be interesting how he approaches the Oxford game. So, looking forward to it.
And just to chat about what we flashed up on the screen just before we got this conversation rolling here on the show tonight, Gaz. I mean, I know this is something that was your idea to implement on the channel in the first place. You're looking across at those, and there were moments in those last, I think we'd say probably from 15 minutes inwards, as it were, I should say 75 minutes onwards would be a better way to say rather than 15 minutes inwards. That was poor choice of words there, but it did look like, as you say, wasn't going to be our day. What wasn't going to be our day? I thought was the perfect way to describe it, because you just thought, if you imagine one of the, I think I said it in the video, if one of those goes in, then that's just an absolute disaster class from us, and it's not good enough. 1-1 draw against Forest Green. You're looking at those. I think you take that pig at one with a pinch of salt, because he's only been on for an hour. Kind of same with Curtis, and Dale's obviously done well. I obviously forgot that he had the assist for the goal as well, Pepe. So that's another one in Owen Dale's favour for those fans that maybe say that he hasn't had quite the games that he's been having so far this season. But I think the main thing, Gaz, and we spoke about it before we came on air, are the full debuts for both Mengi and Swanson.
Yeah. I mean, it was good to get them, and they got some exposure against what should be a proper League One game. So it was good for that. I mean, Tunnicliffe, I wouldn't give him a 7.4 at all. I've not seen him play a 6 game, if I'm honest. I mean, he had a good game against the Scummers on that Tuesday night, didn't he? But again, I'd give him a 7 for the first half, but I'd give him a 4 for the second half, because he was terrible. He went missing, But yeah, I wouldn't give him a 7.4. But yeah, again, positives that came out of the Charlton game, and this positive came out of the Forest Green game. So looking forward to Tuesday.
And Jack, it's a vital clean sheet in League One, which doesn't come around too often, especially at a difficult place like Forest Green, as we already mentioned. Yeah,
the clean sheet is important, and again, that confidence, like I said, across the side, but into that quite sort of misjointed back four. Now, hopefully, it's coming into a bit more of a consistent back four, so the confidence will be important from that. And again, hopefully, that does sort of carry through. Lacking sort of a bit of goal scoring throughout, only winning by 1 goal, but start from the back, as they say, quite a cliche in football. Sort of keep it as a base for the back four, and then work your way up, because we saw that you're keeping clean sheets and scoring a large amount of goals come the start of the season. But again, you have to, after a bit of a rut, you've got to slowly work your way back into a good run of form. If that's a 1-0 win away from home, and that's the way to start it, then so be it. And I think that, again, like I keep saying, that should be a big positive.
And Pepe, big shout out for Josh Griffiths between the sticks, a 7.7. That's one of the first times I've seen him record a number like that particularly on this screen so far this season. And he had 2 big moments in the game and got them spot on. And you can't argue with that. And everyone who was criticising him's gone very quiet. Strangely,
yeah, I do feel really bad for him, because he's come in at the worst possible time when Gavin Bazunu has left Fratton Park to go, obviously, to play in the Premier League, and Pompey fans have such high expectation of what the ideal goalkeeper is. We got very, very lucky with Gavin Bazunu, and remember this time last year he wasn't what he was at the end. He made the mistakes against Ipswich. He was on running away. Well. Where he was making mistakes, and then look at where he came from, or where he ended up going to. And I think Griffiths is in the same category. Obviously, he's not the same level as Bazunu, but you can see the signs. And I think the one thing we all pick out most is his distribution. I think he knows that as well, that's the area he needs to improve at. But again, I think social media is such a terrible place because he's been scapegoated. He gets scapegoated. I think that's one of the words people say is that he's picked out whenever it doesn't go right. Yeah, it's not. He could do better, but again, people were saying that he should have done more for the first goal at Charlton. I don't believe that was right. I think it was the defence that should have done a bit more, and he was obviously on his line. He could have come out, but again, I think that's people just being nitpicking and trying to find ways to have a go. And I think it's just because the level is so high with what we had last season. It was never going to work out. Well, it's obviously working out, but it's never going to be perfect when you're trying to fill the boots of Gambazzuno. And he realised that. I spoke to him as soon as he arrived at Gillingham, and he was saying how much of a big task it will be, and he's trying, and I think it will take time. Obviously, it's going all right, but it's just where it ends up going now. And I think yesterday was a good start for that.
Definitely. Nola said, sorry, Gaz, go on.
I said that with the Fleetwood, he was getting scapegoated for the Fleetwood goal, wasn't he? But that short corner, we should have stopped the short corner. We should have stopped the cross coming across. We got high, strong, tall defenders in the box that aren't, they're ducking away from the ball, and they've scored the goal. So yeah, it's just because he's in the goal. That could have been that could be stopped so many times before. But yeah, typical Pompey fans, they're like a scapegoat, but we know he's not.
And the Ipswich one as well, I suppose. You can even take it as far back as that, as the one that's looping over the top. And, you could argue that there's a mistake from a variety of different parties in there. And
I think that was very hard.
We've seen him do it, haven't we? He's still got concentration, still got the concentration going. So he's actually, he's helped us in some games.
Well, I mean, yesterday's a great example. Is what was my original question to Pepe. I said, look, he's 2 game-defining moments, and there's a really good save from him. It's heading sort of away from us to our right in the first half. That I think it's just after we score actually that he does pluck one out of the top bins, and then I think he did really well yesterday. So, and I think also to remain as neutral as you can here on Fournilwrittenalloverit, I wouldn't have thought the criticism's personal to Josh Griffiths himself. It's just the position of the goalkeeper that people find so important to them. Right, Nola said 3 points, not a great performance. Should have been 4-0 in the first half. Lots of mistakes in the first half. Second half looked better for Forest Green. Had a great chance to tie, and the referee wasn't great. Thanks for showing your thoughts there, Noel. Lucas said, hear me out, 3-4-2-1. Griffiths, Ogilvie, Raggett, Robertson, Hume, Mingy, Pack, Swanson, Cromer, Dale and Bishop. We'll come back to sort of line up some formations a little bit later on in the show when we start doing our previews. Pompey and Mercer said first home game moans and groans. We couldn't beat Lincoln, who've just taken 4 points of Ipswich on Wednesday. Long way to go and plenty more weird results to come. I'm sure that is going to be the case as well. And Dylan has summarised exactly what we were saying. It's not going to be as easy as people think. Forest Green is a tough place to go. And Dan is backing up what you're saying there as well, Pepe. No one will give us the confidence that Bazzuni did. And Dan, we're going to come back to something that you put in the comments as well in just a moment. Let's chat about that midfield then. Gaz, how would you feel about a Mingy Lowry setup with perhaps Pack playing a little bit more deeper with the option to on the spin as he so much enjoys?
So you're saying like 5 in midfield?
I'd say I'd pack a 3 midfield if you can get that in somewhere with you maybe I don't know. Well, but I just the personnel wise I want to see what you thought.
Personnel wise, it's who you have up front. Because you're trying to get Scarlett in there, you got to try and get Piggott in there because Piggott was feeding Colby the first couple of games, wasn't he? But it's difficult to get them free playing in the same squad. Then you've still got that midfield. We can only have 11 players on the pitch, unfortunately. It'd be nice to squeeze another one on. But yeah, so formation wise, do you go, 3 at the back, 5 midfield, 2 up front? It's like,
or 4-3-3. That's probably the other option, isn't it? You go 4-3-3 with that lone striker, but that means, of course, you've got to drop Colby Bishop, Dane Scarlett, or Joe Piggott, and 2 of those players started yesterday. So
yeah, it's definitely a headache for Danny. We've all got opinions on who we would like to start on our own formations. Like we've already seen, the guy put his own formations in there. It's what Danny's got available at the time. We don't see it all the time on the training ground.
You agree with that, Gaz?
I mean, they're all good players. But I mean, Hume, he hasn't had much game time at the moment, is he? So for me, if he was firing on all cylinders, then yeah, maybe. But there's no, I don't know. It's difficult, mate. It's I'd love to talk about formations all day, but it's all it is we concentrate on the next game, innit? We've got Oxford next, so we look at their strengths and their weaknesses. Jack will tell us that, and then
we don't take too long. One of those
formation from what Jack says, But we were warned anyway when that Charlton player, that Charlton fan was on last week. He said, "We'll be attacking you on the wings," and he was right, 100%. They did.
Danny Cowley wasn't listening. He wasn't listening to Fournilwritten Sunday Live, was he?
Cowley, if you want to start listening, Jack's next now, so we'll have some Oxford, all right?
Brilliant.
Some fans, we can see a big picture as well.
That's it. And you I suppose fans maybe see it from a different perspective as well, and you can kind of, there's an argument for that as well. Just before we move on, Pepe, who's your midfield pairing at the minute then?
I don't know, if Pack's out, it would be Ming and Lowry. But I don't know. There's so many options. I think Ryan Tunnicliffe fits sort of maybe on the bench, but Pack and Mingy, that's the tough one, because Pack's been such a good player since he's come back this season. He's been one of the first names on the starting 11, and you think, oh, can you play Mingy over Pack? And obviously it's only Forest Green, but you look at what you put in yesterday and think, oh, maybe you can. But I don't think a Pack and Mingy duo will work, because they're both defensive-minded rather than attacking, so you have got to get that balance. But I do like the Mingy, Lowry and Pack 3, but like Gaz says, you can't take a player out of the attack at the moment. I think you can't go more defensive than attacking, and I think it would have to be Pack and Lowry at the moment, I think.
I also, just as a footnote to that, I think you need to have your split 6 and 4 always. Your 6 attacking and then your 4 defensive, especially in a league like League One, where you need to go and get those points. Right, one more thing before we do move on to Oxford. We bumped into a certain Dave Bishop yesterday outside the ground. And for those of you who might not have seen it already, although I know many of you have, special shout out for him. He told us how much Colby and himself have both been enjoying their time at Pompey thus far.
I'd obviously love Colby to score every game. We know he'd love that, and the magic hat will come on.
Will he be watching?
I'm sure he will afterwards.
He'll have to today because Dad's on there.
And Dad's on there, and hopefully I've done him proud, and that's it. It's all about the team, and I love it since I've been in. I've only missed a couple of games, but it's fantastic. Yeah. It's fantastic, and you guys do a great job, by the way.
Thank you very much. Colby's doing us proud as well, Dave. So appreciate it.
And up the Pompey.
At least Colby's dad listens to us. Danny Cowley might not, but Colby's dad's definitely on here listening. But I'm sure that Isabella will be feeding back to Danny, as we've heard on occasions before. Guys, I thought he had a really good game, Colby Bishop. He came really unlucky on probably 2 really strong occasions, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he hit the post and hit the crossbar.
Hit the crossbar.
He runs his socks off for the team. You can tell that he's happy. Yeah, and obviously he's got his own song, the Magic Hat. He just unfortunately, he hit the ground running at the beginning of the season, didn't he? When he started getting the goals in, and we were scoring goals for fun almost. And it's like most games, most strikers go through a bit of a dry spell, and he just needs another goal now to start getting that confidence back. But again, it's who feeds him. It's he needs crosses. We need some good balls into the box. So it's formation wise. Piggott's a good crosser of the ball. Obviously, Karoma, we know he can cut inside. Most 9 times out of 10, he cuts inside and goes for the goal himself, as opposed to maybe as a natural winger that would go down the line and then put the ball across. Like Hackett, he likes to go down the wing. He cuts inside, so it's almost like our wingers are cutting inside, going for themselves. But maybe it would be nice to have a winger that actually just goes down the line and unselfishly crosses the ball. Maybe that sort of player. Again, we all have opinions.
We do, and it's great to hear yours. Welcome to it'd be great to hear yours too, watching at home. Welcome to the 88 people who join us here live across YouTube and Facebook. It is great to have you with us as always, and you can join in the conversation in the live chat down below. If you disagree with anything that Gaz, Pepe or Jack say this evening, then you can get involved. I'll be very surprised if you do, though, to be fair, because they tend to speak a little bit of sense. Right, let's get on to our Oxford preview then. Before we do so, let's take a look at the upcoming couple of weeks for Pompey. So we're about to chat through Pompey's next League One test. Oxford United this Tuesday night. Part 2 of this week's Fratton Park doubleheader sees Shrewsbury Town make the trip down. That one will be by no means easy against the Salop. And then Papa John's paint pot action against AFC Wimbledon. is then followed by our first FA Cup outing of the season, a Friday night in Hereford with myself, Andrew, Richard and Owen on the channel for that one. Then Brendan and I are off to Morecambe for our longest hike of the season here on Fournilwrittenalloverit. Fratton Park will then host Derby on Friday the 18th of November. Pompey's first Sunday lunchtime fixture of the season is away to Adams Park on the first weekend of December. Oxford United are the first team of this week to travel to Fratton Park for a fixture that has been a good watch in recent seasons. Last time the same outcome came from both the home and away games in which these sides featured, a 3-2 win for Oxford at the Cassam and a 3-2 win for Pompey under the lights at Fratton. Pompey fans will remember Cameron Brannigan with 5 goals to his name so far. He was involved in what was for many the wrongful sending off of Joe Morrell inside 15 minutes 8 months ago. The Fratton faithful will be expectant of a return to winning ways on home turf, having been starved of 3 points on the board in the league at PO4 since the 3rd of September. Oxford will be looking to climb the table away from their recent unfavourable positions and make amends for just one away league win since the end of August. So that's an outsider looking into Oxford United. Jack, unlucky against Posh yesterday, perhaps deserved a point. Billy Bowden said you were the better team despite the goals that you conceded. Is he right?
Yeah, the second half, definitely. The second half saw improvement. The first half was abysmal. The second was much better in the sense that we knocked on the door. I think our chances aren't as good as they have been in previous years in terms of the quality of the chances. In the first 45, we got ran over. We scored a disallowed goal that I think was offside. I'm seeing a few people say it was on. I haven't actually seen it, but it did look offside initially. I'd have to look back, and it doesn't really matter now. But we will look back now and maybe chat about it. But it doesn't really matter because they went at the other end straight away and made it 1-0. 2 similar goals really for Peterborough. I watched it on iFollow. They're sort of edge of the area, cut back, poor marking. Somebody's got to get there and stop that ball from hitting the back of the net. Some people are blaming Simon Eastwood for both of them. It feels harsh. Moving to the second half, there was a reaction. Was it a good enough reaction? Clearly not. Look at the scoreline. Billy Bowden, does score a header that you try and get back into the game, and then the frustration. I think it just summarises our season to Tom and everybody watching this. You make it 2-1, and then you got your striker who hasn't been very good this season, who hasn't scored goals. 5 minutes later, goes and gets sent off for something absolutely stupid and pure petulance. So again, it's 1 step forward, 2 steps back, isn't it? How do you win as a fan? How do you win as a manager? And how do you win as a set of players? For me, and this is purely my opinion, and again, I don't want to sort of put the words into the players' mouths because they're always going to come out and say that they're in a really good mindset, even with a bad run of form. Carl Robinson's the type of guy that will come out all the time and say that we're the better side and we should be deserved to be playing Premier League football. But we all know that isn't the case. That's the way Carl Robinson is. He's an optimist and he's a positive person who'll back his players through thick and thin. The reality is we're not good enough this season. The results aren't good enough. The performances are nowhere near where they need to be and have been in the last couple of years. And we deserve to be where we are in the league table. The league table doesn't lie. You'll know that as Portsmouth in previous seasons where you've, been in positions where you don't want to be, or maybe at the moment you're in a position where, to be fair, you've been higher this season, haven't you? But again, it doesn't lie. You've got a bad run of games, you've dropped down, and now that gap is a little bit tighter in your eyes. For us, we're just outside that bottom 4, and we're playing like a side in that bottom 4. I will quickly come back to the second 45 minutes and that stupid red card from Matty Taylor. Apparently, we're going to try and appeal it. Okay, if we appeal, it doesn't matter. He's not going to make Tuesday anyway. I don't think the way that the FA or whoever does the appeal process will get it done by Tuesday. So I don't think that really matters. Is Matty Taylor somebody at the moment that's going to be scoring goals in League One or a real threat for you if he does play? No. To be quite honest with you, he really is not in good form, and he isn't that real output and that real goal scoring output that he has been in the last couple of seasons, and has been a key part of Carl Robinson's side. So, we did knock on the door. We huffed and we puffed. We tried to try and get something from the game and nick an equaliser. But it comes down to one thing. We're lacking quality. We're lacking a real spark. We're lacking that real edge. We've got the hard work. You can't really sort of blame Oxford United for not being a side that won't hit numbers for distant covered or sprints, things like that. But, more than anyone in League One, I don't think you can get to where you want to get to by running around and pressing. You've got to have that element of quality, and that bit of spark is something a little bit different. And at the moment, if we're being brutally honest, and Carl Robinson will admit it himself, maybe behind closed doors and not in front of a camera and a media team, we haven't got that.
You mentioned Carl Robertson a couple of times in what you're just saying there. This is a question that I asked you at the top of the show that Andrew's just relayed here. If you lose on Tuesdays at the end of Robinson, you've told me, and this will be music to every Pompey fan's ears listening and watching to this, and to the two other Pompey fans that join me, but you don't think he'll be gone by Tuesday. And we know what a managerial bounce and getting rid of him would do at a place like Fratton Park if he's not there. But you think he'll still be on the touchline, Jack? Do you mind telling us why?
I think Carmen's will be in charge next time we play at Fratton Park next season. To be honest, the board that we've got at the moment won't sack him. I think we'd have to get. We'd have to be in a position where we're almost relegated by Christmas for him to be sacked before that point, and that is such a concern. The takeover is misleading. The takeover isn't a takeover. It's a change in name. They might have more money, and that could be a positive. Was the transfer window done by the? I don't want to go too far into the logistics of it. I understand this is quite boring for some people, but ultimately, the board won't sack him because they were there before. They were there, the previous owners. So I don't. It's not like a new owner, new face, or a new owner, new manager sort of situation. It's the same people with a new name with a majority stake. So I can't see them change the manager unless something goes drastically wrong. We've got some difficult games coming up. Peterborough was sort of the start of that real difficult run. Yourselves on Tuesday, and then Bolton on Saturday, then Fleetwood at home, which at the moment any game seems to be a real challenge, and even if it's not on paper going to be as difficult game as it should be, Oxford United will make sure it's one of the most difficult games of the season.
So flip it on his head then, Jack. If you were a Pompey fan right now and you had Oxford United coming down to Fratton Park on Tuesday night, what would you be most aware of, given what you know? Is it Carl Joseph, Cameron Brannigan? Obviously not Matty Taylor, but you said it wasn't going to be that wasn't going to be the case anyway. What would you be looking out for? Because Marcus came on here this time last week and said, as Gaz has already mentioned, and we're hoping that you're going to be able to expose Oxford United and we can send the message up to Mr. Cowley, well, Mr. and the other Mr. Cowley as well, to see if they can do anything about it between now and 7:45 on Tuesday night. But anything in particular that you think Oxford might get a little bit of joy out of at Fratton?
I think Cameron Brannigan's the obvious shout. This is a player that shouldn't be in League One. He should have been in the Championship, and he's probably regretting that move that he could have gone to Blackpool in the summer when they came in and offered him and hit the release clause, and he instead signed a new 3-year deal. I bet he's thinking, house price is now thinking, can we get rid to Blackpool? And that'll just be the reality of that situation, because he's now looking at a League One side who are really struggling. He's a talented midfielder, an extremely talented midfielder who is a box-to-box. He can create things. He'll score goals. He's our penalty taker. He's our set-piece taker. Cameron Brannigan is Oxford United at the moment in a very difficult situation. He is the talisman. He has been for quite a long time, and to be fair to him, but in a poor side, he is still standing out. But the issue is this Forest Green result does turn this quite turgid run of games you were sort of before that around, and if it is the case, then I still don't think one player is going to change the outcome of this game, especially away from home. This is it's going to be a challenge.
It's been a long time since you've won a game on the road, Jack, and I know you don't need me to remind you of that. Pepe, this is how we're comparing so far. As you can see, there's a lot of blue boxes around some of those numbers, which is a good sign from a Pompey point of view, because it means that we're superior in that particular area. And obviously, the reason why there isn't one on the draws is because you kind of want to draw less games than you do want to draw more games, I should say. But you're looking at that there, and I think maybe the only thing that Jack can draw any happiness out of is the fact that they haven't lost a game by more than that single goal there, by the looks of things. It looks like that games stay pretty tight for Oxford United at the moment. How do you reflect on what's up on the screen? And maybe this is a chance to put a bad spell, bad run of form, bad whatever you want to call it, truly behind Pompey. We can actually see whether that was just a little blip and start getting a winning run going again.
Yeah, I think obviously, I know Jack's saying Oxford aren't doing very well, but I think you look at Oxford from the outside like we are, Oxford will always be a tough team for Pompey. They'll always show up at Fratton Park, or when Pompey travel to the Kassam, it'll always be a tough fixture. It's almost like Charlton. They're almost like a bogey team. That's why it always makes the game even more difficult. I think because it is Oxford and they have got history in the last couple of years in the playoffs, there's always that little bit of incentive to it. But I think, if what Jack's saying is really happened at Oxford, then Pompey should realistically punish them. And if that's what you need to do if you want to be a promotion if you want to be promotion contenders this season, is putting teams like Oxford, who are struggling, really to bed, and not really let them have a chance. Because if it's 2-1, if Pompey are 2-1 up or something, 1-0 up with 10 minutes to go, it'll almost be Oxford coming at Pompey in a way, and I don't think you really want that. So if they do want to be promotion contenders, then they really should be putting a team like Oxford, who are struggling, really to bed.
Yeah, Joe said, Gaz, that I cannot see Oxford doing much on Tuesday night. And if you're looking at that purely from a kind of a goals per match and goals conceded per match, you don't want to get too statistical about it. You can envisage a 2-1 Pompey win on Tuesday, couldn't you?
You could, and obviously Jack's mentioned already that probably morale is probably a bit low at the moment in the camp. I'm not saying the manager's lost the dressing room, because obviously that's like a cliche, innit? You have a bad run of form and the manager's lost the dressing room, but obviously the guys are still playing for the manager. They're just not getting obviously the results that they obviously want. But yeah, Tuesday would be an ideal time to play Oxford at the moment because of their recent form and where they are. The problem we have is that we had quite a break before the Charlton game. What was it, 9-10 days? And we looked leggy at the Charlton game, and then obviously we played again 6 days later at Forest Green. We didn't look 110. We didn't look on it. We're playing Oxford, who are 3 or 4 days later. It all depends on how fit these boys are. The only good thing is we're at home. The crowd, the 12th man, will get behind the team. And we'll just see what happens on Tuesday.
I have an apology to make to Jack. I said that Oxford hadn't won an away game for quite a while. I think you'll find that they did beat Exeter away from home just a few short weeks ago.
It was that memorable. I didn't even pick up on it.
I'll put my hands up on that one. I wanted to ask you quickly about your starting 11, Jack, and how we can expect you to line up. And I hope that Gaz and Pepe have got what they want to know about Oxford out of you, and I'll open the floor up to any questions that they might have to you after this.
Tom, I've got one quick question.
Pepe, you fire away, mate.
Yeah, Jack, what's Cole Joseph like? He was linked with Pompey in the summer. He was Danny Cowley wanted him. I just want to know how he sort of got on, really, because Pompey fans were sort of keen on him. How's he fared in League One?
I'll put it politely. I think you better got the better loan deal with Dane Scarlett.
That's what I need to know.
He's somebody. Look, one thing I will say about Cole Joseph is he works hard. And
that's it.
And that pretty much does summarise the player. He does work hard, and he hasn't got a bad finish on him. And I'll give a little bit more credit. He has been played out of position. He's not been played as a centre forward. I think he will play as a striker because we haven't got Matty Taylor on Tuesday, so we probably will see him up front. And one thing he will do is he will press. He'll make a bit of a nuisance of himself. He's quite a physical player, but his balance, his first touch, his general control as a striker. I mean, we tried to play him in centre midfield a couple of weeks ago. I mean, that was one of that was the worst decision that a manager's ever made. I've seen, especially for an Oxford United manager, to play somebody who has a non-existent first touch, isn't a great passer of the ball, and play him in centre midfield was absolutely, it screamed of desperation. So look, like I said, I think you probably got the better loan deal with Dane Scarlett. He's lively, and I imagine he'll probably start on Tuesday. I'm not entirely sure. Depends if you go with that front two, but yeah, he's a hard worker.
Scarlett definitely did a lot to sort of his place to lose on Tuesday night. I don't know. Maybe Scarlett starting, Pepe, Gaz might have different opinions, and the rest of you watching on 4-0 Sunday Live tonight. Gaz, was there anything else that you wanted to throw at Jack before I chat to him about the way he's going to line up?
Obviously, with Matty Taylor off now, does that change your formation? Do you normally play a 4-3-3 anyway, or do you just do that formation purely with that three up front, or do you think you'll tinker the formation, or is that a comfortable formation that Robertson likes to go with?
I think we probably will stay with that 4-3-3. I think he has tinkered with the 5 at the back or the 3 with the wing backs.
I think throw in for Taylor then. With Taylor not there, who would you throw?
I think we'd go Joseph up front as a centre forward. I think we'd bring a few of the wide men. We've got different options. It depends on Murphy's fitness. If Murphy's fit, then we'll put him on the wide area. Potentially Jody Jones as well, who isn't getting an opportunity, which is a frustrating aspect of being an Oxford United supporter at the moment when looking at the announcements of the lineups. I think it will still be the 4-3-3. I think it'll be a fairly similar lineup. Carl Robinson's a stubborn manager, which has worked well and hasn't at this point. When you look at a bad run of forms, it isn't working because he's stuck in his ways. He will play the same players. He won't give players opportunities. We've got a player, Oshin Smith, who no one would have heard of because he hasn't played a single minute for Oxford United in League One. How somebody like him as a centre midfielder can't get into this side, I'll never know. He's not been given opportunity. I think it does come down to the fact that Robinson knows if he does put him into a starting 11 position, and because we've been so bad, he's going to look like an idiot if it comes back and he plays well. So, and that's just a stubborn manager in a desperate situation. He won't give players new opportunities because he wants to prove that, I can get myself out of this situation with these group of players. I'm sorry, Carl. At the moment, no chance.
Could it be a case?
Sorry, guys. You bring the numbers down on Tuesday?
I hope so. We do generally travel quite well. A Tuesday night does make it a little bit more difficult. If it's a Saturday, we'd absolutely. I think we do an extraordinary amount of numbers. For Tuesday, we still will. We'll still put our numbers down, and I think we'll be okay for in terms of the attendance in the away end.
I can confirm it's less than 1,500 because we've got seats in the Milton end, Gaz. So we normally the threshold is 1,500, and then they don't give us that block. I think am I right in saying that, Pepe? That's the kind of way that they like to go about it.
I believe so. I think I think it's usually the right hand side close to the south stand that will be open to the the home fans. Sorry, so I'm guessing it'll be those two blocks.
But 1,500 there or thereabouts is still a good following on a Tuesday night, wherever you go in, Jack. So I think that's fair enough. Just one quick word on what you said about that young guy who, sorry, but his name's completely gone because you mentioned him very quickly and he hasn't played a minute for you.
Oshin Smith.
That's the one. Is the reason why he won't have played because of that man in the middle, Cameron Brannigan, still in the limelight with 5 goals to his name? Maybe not trying to defend your manager, but is that the reason, or is that a little bit too simple for me to say?
No, it's because of the two players either side of him. I'd say McGuane, actually. I'd say McGuane's been a real standout. I'd say Brannigan's been really, really good. It's Billy Bowden to the right of him, who actually did score on Saturday, did score yesterday, but he hasn't been very good. He shouldn't have really been in that starting 11. He didn't play very well, to be honest with you, Billy Bowden. He got man of the match, I think, or he definitely did the media work. So I don't know whether or not he did officially get man of the match, but he did come out and speak. Probably because he did score the goal. He wasn't amazing, but no player was. I'm not really digging out Billy Bowden individually. I would play Oshin in there. The problem that we have is, I think in a situation like this, you've just got to try something different, because the idea of doing the same thing over and over again that isn't working is the definition of going insane, and it screams desperation. So I don't know what we're going to do. I presume you're going to ask me sort of how I'd go in terms of formation and personnel.
Well, I was going to say that. I was also just going to raise a point that there's nothing better when you're winning games to have a stubborn manager, but it's also nothing worse than when you're losing them because he won't change his ways. I think that's kind of what you're getting at. And I was also going to say, what was I going to say? I can't remember what I was going to say now. So yeah, I'll ask you about formation. Then if it comes back to me, so we reckon it's going to be a similar kind of look to that with the tinkering of Matty Taylor up top, seeing as he's unavailable for selection.
I can honestly see one change, 2 changes, which is absolutely crazy considering the run that they're on and the performance in the first half. The argument will be we played really well in the second half, and can we continue where we left off against Peterborough in the second 45, not make too many changes? I'd probably make 3 or 4 changes personally, but that's me, and that's the fact that I've probably come across as a bit of a grumpy Oxford United supporter during the last half an hour. But it's because I'm a football fan, and you were the same when you weren't supporting. When things aren't going very well, and you sort of see your side continue to do things over and over again that aren't working, and you're 19th in the league after 14, 15 games, and you're playing terrible football, that's where the frustration is coming from. I think we will go the 4-3-3. I think it'll be Simon East winning goal. I think it'll be Sam Long. I think it'll be Elliot Moore, be Stuart Finley. Probably will be Kieran Brown again. Seddon was a bench. Was on the bench on Tuesday. On Wednesday. God, this is what it's doing to me. It's what it's doing to me. Saturday. We might have better luck if we start playing on Wednesdays. Seddon at left back potentially, and then I'll probably go the midfield 3 of Billy Bowden, Cameron Brannigan, Marcus McGuane, because he won't do anything else. And then a front 3, I probably would go Carl Joseph as a centre forward, Marcus Brown off the left, and then I would look at the fitness of Murphy, who was one of the strangest quotes of the manager. He wasn't injured, but he wasn't on the bench.
Yeah, so he doesn't fancy him then, probably. That sounds that kind of thing.
Well, apparently, he worked with them MK Dons. I think it was a sense of he is injured, but let's not tell the fans he's injured because we got a really bad track record of signing players that are injured. And breaking news: Murphy was signed in the summer.
There you go. We'll go around the loop on score predictions. I want to do a quick little read.
Oh,
Go on.
He's gone. What's your score prediction?
What's my score prediction? Well, it's going to be. Well, it depends on obviously formation. It's going to be who's available for him as well. So, but I'm going to go with a cheeky 2-1. I think we're going to make it hard for ourselves. I think we will concede, which will be obviously good for Jack, whether it's the first goal. But I think with the home fans behind us, again, a win's a win, isn't it? But we haven't been back to Fratton Park for a little while. So, yeah, I'm going to go with 2-1.
Well covered, Gaz. Thanks for that. I don't know what happened there. It all fell apart. I was trying to get the thing off the screen and then it just went. Gavin said, if we want Colby to start scoring again, I honestly believe he needs Pigott with him because that seems to be working at the start of the season. Then Scarlett at 60 minutes again, a tied defence. Napper's mum said a couple of minutes ago, great stream tonight, guys. Some great footy chat discussed. Well done. Thank you very much. We always love having Ben on to discuss when we're playing Fleetwood and the wider League One chat, which I think we've kind of not quite got enough time to do tonight. Jack, we might flash some scores up in a minute. We can chat through some of the games. And Gaz mentioned
just really quickly, Tom. Sorry, I just saw.
Go for it.
I just saw something in the comments. So I think it's Nut Behind the Wheel says Smith's injured. It's hamstring to got on Friday. That was an injury that was just cropped up because he came on in previous weeks. He has. From what I know, I don't think he's been injured the entire time this season. I think it was quite a recent injury. I know he was going to go on loan, and that is something that Corumson wanted to do. But my point was, even if he was going to go on loan in a poor side, surely you give somebody an opportunity without even. Why would you send someone out on loan who's 22? Who he signed with a lot of prospect? Why would you send him out on loan when if we're winning games of football, that midfield three is untouchable? I understand because he's not going to get minutes. But in a side that's struggling, you thought you'd give him some sort of opportunity.
Doesn't fancy him, Jack, does he? Doesn't fancy him at all for whatever reason. Gaz gave a score prediction. Pepe, did you give your score prediction while we had our bit of a mishap? No, go for it. Go on.
I took control of the stream, Tom.
Good man. Good man. Good man. What do you reckon?
I think it's going to be a close 2-1. I'm going to go against what I said earlier, and it will be a tough game, and it will be 2-1. But Colby Bishop double.
Dan said Pompey 2-0. We're going to come on to something that Dan said in just a minute because I do want to squeeze in a little bit of a Shrewsbury chat because this is the last time that we will speak live on Fournilwrittenalloverit on Fournil Sunday Live before we play Shrewsbury, which feels like an age away, but it will come round rather quickly. Before we do so, Jack, how you feeling score-wise?
I'm feeling brilliant, so I reckon we're going to do 4-0. I think the fan inside me and the Oxford United fan inside me said if we can nick a point, if we can nick 1-1, that would be the best result of the season, and I mean that. Honestly, I mean that. If we get a 1-1 draw, that'd be the best point of the season and the best result of the campaign so far. But my head and everything that I've seen so far from Oxford United, I can't see anything other than a 2-0 defeat.
That's a bit of a worry because Ben said exactly that. He said, if it's a 1-1, then it's a great result for us, and then it happened. So hopefully what you say is true. What the latter part of what you say is true. Right, just quickly, but before we speak about what we were going to chat about, which was the Shrewsbury game, I wanted to throw in what Dan Richardson left as a comment, which I was really pleased with. I wanted to throw it straight to you, Pepe, if I can. As an overarching point, and it's not specific to Forest Green, there was a great comment from Dan Richardson, and he said, I'm sure he's still watching, by the way, and he said, Pompey have played all four teams above them in the league, and we've only failed to beat one of them, and that was Ipswich at Portman Road. So my question was going to be, how much does that say about the group? When you look at that and you think 1, 2, 3, and 4 have all been played by Pompey. There's only one defeat up there, and that's Ipswich. 2-2 with Plymouth, 3-3 Sheffield Wednesday. Obviously, one of those is away, one of those is at home, and then a 3 points against Peterborough. So it says a lot about the group.
Yeah, it does. It definitely does. And I think you can look at each game individually. Peterborough, Pompey were better than them throughout the whole 90 minutes. Sheffield Wednesday, you can really look at that and be like, it was the first game of the season away at Hillsborough. You take a point, and I think you'd still take a point if you go to Hillsborough now. Ipswich, yeah, they didn't really play well there, but that was at Portman Road and it was a great atmosphere, and that was always going to be a tough game. So I think that and Hillsborough, Portman Road and Hillsborough are the two toughest places to go in League One. So you think if you can take a point there, that's good. If not, then it's not the end of the world. And then Plymouth, I think obviously you look at it, it was 2-2, but before Plymouth's goal, Pompey were dominant the whole game pretty much up until Plymouth's 2 goals, and then it was where they brought the subs on, and then they sort of switched the game, and then Pompey didn't react. But again, they looked good and they were showing signs. So I think there is promise there, and I think there's so much negativity around at the moment saying, "Oh, season's over." You look at it. They're 2 games in hand. If they win that, they go above Sheffield Wednesday and 2 points behind Plymouth, Ipswich. Sorry. So I think it's too early to say, "Oh, the season's done." This, that, and the other. I think if you had said after the first 13 games, Pompey are sat 5th. They've drawn at Ipswich. They've drawn away at Sheffield Wednesday. They've beaten Peterborough with 2 games in hand. You'd have taken that at the start of the season. It would have been, Pompey fans would have been loving it. And I think it's wrong that people are saying Cowley out and this, that, and the other after a couple of shaky drop points. And all you have to do is look at the table and see who Pompey have beaten. And I think you would have taken that at the start of the season for sure.
And just to add to that, exactly what the man who left the comment in the first place that prompted the conversation, he says, turn out a 9-point week and the 2-point average is maintained having played those teams. And that's something we were chat about a little bit earlier. Before we speak to Gaz on what Pepe just said, and I'm sure he's going to be massively in agreement. People want to know where the content is, Jack. I don't know where it was. Yeah. Where was it? Where's your reaction video? And it's out at 8:30. So ladies and gents, you got 20 minutes to go before Jack's reaction video.
When Tom lets me out of my cage, I'll be out. When Tom lets me out of the cage, I'll be out.
When I've shut up about Shrewsbury, then Jack can go, and I'm sure I think the magic of YouTube would suggest that it's already been filmed and uploaded and it's ready to press go on. I think that's probably the case, but there we go. I'm sure you agreed exactly with what Pepe was saying there, Gaz, but a little bit of head loss sometimes from this incredibly passionate fan base. I think they only want the team to do well, but you're looking at that and you're thinking, crikey, come off it. We're doing all right, aren't we?
Yeah, of course we are, yeah. Obviously, yeah, it's nice to get the points on the board at the moment, and yeah, we've got the couple of games in hand, but games in hand don't mean nothing unless you win them. So you've got to get them points. It's the lower end of this the league that I would get concerned when we start playing teams, and we're losing or we're drawing. They're the points. It's all right winning them up top, but you've got to get them games below you. You've got to get them points on the board. So it's a bit more consistency. And I get fans' frustration because we've been in this league for we've been out the top league for a long time, and our fan, but no one has a God-given right to be in the Championship or the Premier League, but we would like to be in the hat as a big club to be Championship, and maybe one day aspiring to be back in the Premier League, but yeah, it's points on the board. It's a difficult league. We said it last week, didn't we? When I spoke to Graham Ricks, everyone can beat each other, and even yesterday we saw that again. People are taking points off each other. That Plymouth draw, it could be vital for us, in the next games. But yeah, goal difference again. We could have scored maybe 3 or 4 against Forest Green. Maybe that might come and bite us later on in the season if we haven't got the goal difference. Because if teams are going there and they're beating them like 5-6-0. Goal difference could be a hindrance, So yeah, it's all these anomalies for this season, isn't it?
That's it. Absolutely, and it's a long old way to go as well, which is important. Leo wants to know if you're coming, Jack. Now this is a little bit up in the air at the minute, and it's something that we were going to discuss off air. So we'll have an answer for you on that very soon. Mike said, "Great show. Looking forward to Tuesday night, my first game of the season. Also Saturday, coming over from Malta. Gaz, one of your friends, is over there. He's coming over." Gallagher said the aim of this season was playoffs. I don't understand why people are moaning. To be honest, admittedly, we've been poor recently, but hopefully we can get a run pre-World Cup. And I think that was about it on that one. So what we'll very quickly on Shrewsbury, if you wouldn't mind, Pepe. I mean, it's if you have a look at what they've accomplished so far this season, is 10th, and they're actually on that table there, aren't they? Shrewsbury, not too far away from Pompey. Obviously, Pompey play a game less, but it's only a 4-point gap. you know, they've picked up some good wins, and there's now lost the most amount of games that Barnsley have, and Derby County. So they're by no means, you know, down and out there. I think Tom Bayliss is a lot of talent that we need to be looking out for. And there's another chap as well whose name has completely lost my mind. So I'm going to very quickly and professionally check my notes and see what his name was. Christian Sadie was the man I was going to say. Thoughts on Shrewsbury?
Yes, I think I speak for everybody in saying they were my dark horse for the season. I think you look at some of the names they were bringing over the summer. Christian Sadie, like you mentioned, was on trial at Pompey, although he didn't sort of hit it off against Havant and Gosport. He was on trial at Pompey.
Sorry to interrupt you. If we go back a little bit and you look at the you look at the Havant and Waterlooville on the channel, we go, George Hurst would be great with Christian Sadie. And I'm like, oh my God, what were we talking about back then? Honestly, if you have a look, it's on there. Carry on, mate. Sorry.
Yeah, so you've got them. They also brought in that centre back from Sheffield Wednesday. I can't remember his name.
Shea Dunkley.
That was it. And they've also got Aidan O'Brien as well. Obviously, he's been out. I think he's been injured. But again, he's in their team. And he's done well when he's played, I think, if I'm right in saying. But they've brought in a good number of players, and not just any players, but experienced League One players that could do a job. And that's what Steve Cottrell did over the summer. And I'm looking on social media, people are tipping them to be outside favourites to get in the playoffs. And I wouldn't be surprised by that, because they are a good team and they have got really good players in that squad. And I don't think it'll be a pushover when they come to Fratton Park on Saturday. Obviously, Steve Cottrell as well. He comes back to Fratton Park as always. So I think it will be a tough game, and I don't think it's one Pompey fans should be looking at being, oh, this is easy 3 points. It'll be far, far from it.
Gaz, thoughts on Shrewsbury?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be a tough game, but I think past history, the last 2 or 3 years, we've beaten them, haven't we? I don't think we've lost to them in the league for maybe 2 or 3 years. But yeah, it's going to be a tough game. Danny's going to have his work cut out. Again, it's going to be on the balance of the Oxford game. If we do Oxford 4-0 written all over it, then he's got a bit less headache to worry about for Saturday. But as you know, you take each game as it comes. If we get thumped by Oxford on Tuesday, then obviously the Shrewsbury game all of a sudden it becomes another massive game. Similar to what Charlton was, and then Forest Green. So yeah, we take one game at a time. We're talking about Oxford, but yeah, Shrewsbury we can talk about it, but we don't know what's going to be happening on Tuesday. But I'm confident against Shrewsbury only because we played them in the past, and I think we'll get a result on Tuesday for sure. That's going to be confidence again. Hopefully we'll get some people back from injury, so we'll have another good squad for Saturday. And again, Fratton Park, the 12th man. That's what we need.
9-point week, Gaz.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, Pepe.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I think Shrewsbury will be a tough game, but I think all indications that it should be a 9-point week.
And I'd just say, just to back up exactly what Gaz is saying there, without Marlon Pack, without Louis Thompson, without Tom Lowry, without Joe Morrell and Michael Jacobs at the moment. So hoping that we can have a return to some of those, and Pack might be the closest out of those bunch. Just finally, Jack, you have the closing word. Your score prediction for Pompey Shrewsbury, and anything that we should be aware of. We had a comment from Fred here. Oh, where has it gone? There it is. A team of cloggers, and Cottrell's train them in the dark arts. Anyone not up for the fight needs to stay in the dressing room to avoid injury. At the minute, we're going to have a whole team out with injury if we're not careful. So yeah, a couple of comments about Shrewsbury saying they're a nasty mob. Would you be along those lines?
We haven't played them yet this season. I haven't actually watched a 90 minutes a game of football with Shrewsbury involved, but they're doing well. Look at the league table. I think it's already been spoken about. The players they're bringing in the summer were really impressive. The squad looks much better now. I look at that sort of depth in the positions. They look in a really, really good place. They brought in, instead of players that couldn't really do it at the sort of top level League One sides, they're now looking at sort of players that could do the Championship, maybe with like Shea Dunkley. I know he came from Sheffield Wednesday, but we've had Shea Dunkley at Oxford United a couple of years ago, and the problem with him is his injury. But if he can stay fit, he's a top class League One defender. And we mentioned O'Brien. Sadie as well. These are really, really good players. They will be physical. They will try and play the physical style. But as we do know, that is something that works in League One. So can you blame them? Dark arts works well, and the physicality also is a really important way and a pivotal way that some sides are successful in, dare I say it, a promotion push. I don't know whether or not Shrewsbury will be in that camp. I don't know. That's I'm not going to make any more predictions with teams maybe outside with the top 6 with my Cambridge United one a few months ago. But all jokes aside, they do look in a much better place than they did in previous seasons, and that squad does look in a more balanced way, and in terms of quality as well.
Score?
2-0, Pompey.
Take that. What did you say? You say 2-0 for the Oxford game as well?
I said my head said 2-0, my heart said 1-1.
Well, you only go for 1.
2-1 then.
2-1 Oxford.
No.
Oh, 2-1 Pompey.
defeat.
Good lad. That's what we'd like to see. Right, gentlemen, thank you for the moment. And while we have a quick look at the games coming up for this next couple of weeks, feel free to get your score predictions for the 2 games. I want to see one score prediction alongside the other. The first one we will take is the Oxford one. The second we will take is the Shrewsbury one. And then we'll come back and have a little look at those. Here's how Pompey's next few weeks are looking then. Oxford and Shrewsbury are our next 2 on home turf, as we've been discussing on tonight's show. Following our Papa John's Paint Pot game, Pompey are then in FA Cup action for the first time this season. Looking forward to our Friday night trip to Hereford. That one is a 7:55 kickoff, as Gaz said before we got going on the live tonight. It's on BBC 2 if you can't make it, and of course Fournilwrittenalloverit the next morning. Myself and Brennan then off to Morecambe the following weekend for what is the longest trip by distance this season for the Fratton faithful. Friday night football comes to Fratton on November the 18th for Pompey against Derby, followed by a Sunday lunchtime outing to Adams Park against Gareth Ainsworth's Wycombe Wanderers. Very much looking forward to that one. Right, let's have a look then. What have we got? So we've got a 2-2 Pompey, 2-2 Tuesday, 3-1 Saturday, and red cards galore. 2-1 Tuesday, 3-1 Saturday, 9-point week. Everyone's on board with the 9-point week, which is good to see. Ritter said 3-1 Tuesday, 2-0 against Shrewsbury. Sorry, who's George Hurst? And then Dan has said Pompey 2-0 and then 2-1. So a lot of people expecting the wins, and Brian's going 1-0 Oxford, 2-1 Saturday. So there we go. Good news, everybody. Good news. Thanks for joining us tonight, gentlemen. It's been an absolute pleasure. We will see you in it's not too long now, is it, Jack? Not too long to go.
Can't wait for it, boys. Can't wait for it.
Until the big one. Thanks to Gaz all the way from Malta. Pepe joins us from the Portsmouth News Desk. And of course, Jack, who will hopefully see on Tuesday night. And we will hopefully see you on Tuesday night as well for Fournilwrittenalloverit. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in a couple of days' time. Have a good Sunday. Cheers, boys.
See ya.
Cheers.